Hi, I will share a story that I haven't told anyone yet. To be honest, I don't know why I'm doing it now. Maybe it's just boredom or wanting to share something that I know will creep people out. Maybe a bit of both. I won't disclose my identity for reasons which will become apparent soon. Let's say I've always lived in the small town of Willard's Rest, a peaceful place that's known only for its cowboys, gunfights, picturesque views, and a peculiar legend. WYZN, the midnight radio station. The legend goes that every night, exactly at the stroke of midnight, WYZN would start broadcasting. The transmission would sometimes last for several minutes, other times for several hours. Even more intriguing is the fact that no two people would ever hear the same broadcast. It's like the radio is personalized based on who's listening. Some people don't even get to hear it at all. I kept hearing rumors about the strange advice given by the anonymous host, but no one knew its source or why it only played at midnight, or who the host was. I'm not one to like conspiracy theories or creepy stuff, so I didn't care much about the legend for a while. However, the stories kept creeping back to me one way or another. Naturally, I got intrigued, and one night curiosity got the best of me. I was driving to the nearby town to pick up my brother and his girlfriend, and the trip soon became boring. The clock was about to hit midnight, and I suddenly remembered about the infamous radio station. I checked the frequency range for a couple of minutes, navigating the static until I caught a peculiar transmission. It was real. The soft, enigmatic voice of the host filled my car with soothing and almost hypnotic words. The host discussed up a topic and then offered an obscure piece of advice. Here's the crazy part, though. I cannot, for the life of me, remember the topic or what he talked about. I couldn't remember a single word that the host said. I know for a fact that I've listened to the transmission for a while, even enjoying and being fascinated by what I was hearing. The fact that I couldn't remember anything the next day was very confusing to me. Obviously, I decided to give it another go. I tuned in the following night, this time while in my bedroom, ready to focus on the transmission completely. All I can remember was that I found it very interesting and engaging, but my memory blanked out as soon as the transmission was over. Again, I couldn't remember one word that the host said. This was getting weird fast. So I came up with a plan. The next day, I prepared a notebook and a pen, ready to write down as much as I could. I was initially planning to use a recorder, maybe my phone, but I didn't trust electronics at that point. Nothing could beat the classical pen and paper, I said to myself. The transmission lasted for approximately 15 minutes, during which I filled several pages with gruesome imagery. I'm talking about mutilated corpses, dead bodies, blood, carnage, everything you can think of. I remember there was nothing during the transmission that could have justified those drawings. The host discussed something playful. I can't remember what, but I remember feeling calm and slightly amused by it. This contrasted with the awful drawings that were now filling several pages in my notebook. More importantly, I couldn't even recall the drawing process. What happened? Was I hallucinating or have I been hypnotized by the transmission? At that point, everything seemed surreal to me. But there was also something else. Suddenly, I felt an unexplained urge to murder someone. The feeling resembled that of a sugar craving, just far more intense. And worst part about it, I wasn't concerned or horrified by it. It seemed like a natural urge that I needed to satisfy. Naturally, I resisted the feeling for a while, but I felt it growing by the moment. It was slowly taking over my thoughts and occupying my mind, despite me fighting back as hard as I could. It was a bizarre situation that I eventually brushed off. I must have imagined it, right? Well, wrong. I tuned into the same frequency the next night out of sheer morbid curiosity. I remember the transmission being fun and engaging. I remember it being a podcast with 2 guests. I also remember the old lady I killed 20 minutes after the transmission. I can't recall all of the details, but I know I used a cord to strangle her on the side of the road, then bash her head against the asphalt. I don't know how I got there, as my last memory was with me listening to WIZN at home in my bed. The next moment, I was on the side of the road 50 miles from my home. My car was parked nearby. I have no idea who that lady was, but she was now laying dead at my feet in a pool of blood. The scariest part was that I felt no disgust, shame, regret, horror, nothing. I was aware of what I did, but I didn't feel anything. Like I simply finished eating a sandwich. It felt very natural to me. It still does. I saw the news about her death the following morning. Her body was discovered at the side of the road, where I left it. I expected to feel terrified, but I didn't. I was completely detached from the situation, as if I had nothing to do with it. It's at that very moment that my life changed completely. Every night, I would tune in to the WYZN frequency to listen to whatever program was running. The host was the same unknown male, and the program would almost always be different. Sometimes there would be a monologue, other times a podcast with one or several guests. I never remember anything once the transmission is over, which usually lasts between 15 and 40 minutes. I remember one occasion when the WIZN transmission lasted slightly over 2 hours. I killed a couple that night more than 100 miles from my home. I don't remember how I got there or why I killed them. I used a knife to stab them several dozen times. I decapitated the woman. This was approximately 2 months ago. Since then, I did my best to find out everything I could about WIZN, but I came up empty-handed each time. Nobody knows who the host is, where the broadcast is coming from, or what's being discussed during the transmission. As far as I was able to find out, everyone has a different perception and experience. As for me, well, still struggling with my demons, although I fear I have become one myself. In case you're wondering, I've killed 9 people so far.